and welcome to last week's clip. My name's Stephen White, and on this week's show, we turn our lens to CMAT's brand new album Euro-Country and why she's the right artist at the right time. But first,
I use my voice, and most of the time when I'm writing a song, I'm writing off the top of my head with no accompaniment because I'm trying to express something. I'm trying to many people write songs for many different reasons. I am always just trying to explain myself, either to myself or to anyone that will listen.
not my words, but the words of CMAT. Why, dear listener, and indeed, dear viewer, were we just listening to the Irish pop star at the beginning of this week's show? Well, this week I thought I'd give my perspective on CMAT's brand new third studio album, Euro-Country. Indeed, pop music rarely feels inevitable, but this is an album that had to be made at this time, and it seems like it had to be made by CMAT. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. CMAT's first two records laid the groundwork. If My Wife Knew I'd Be Dead was all about confessional storytelling, witty one-liners and heartbreak refracted through her singular sense of humour. Crazy Mad for Me widened the scope slightly, being more ambitious sonically while still anchored in pop culture, but always looking inward. In hindsight, these were foundational texts in the Irish pop star's rising career. The humour was always edged with either socio-political or socio-economic themes. The heartbreak always underpinned with the cultural weight of the world that they took place in. With Euro-Country, those symptoms finally trace their source. And here's the thing, another artist could have made a breakup album. Another artist could have made a satire about the state of Europe. But only CMAT could weave both, written from a wholly Irish perspective with heartbreaking history, comedy and critique, crafted into one seamless whole that reaches beyond the boundaries of the island from which they were written. That's why Euro-Country, and indeed CMAT, feel inevitable. To understand why Euro-Country resonates, you have to reckon with the Celtic Tiger. A time of unchecked boom, followed by brutal bust. Ghost estates littered across Ireland, shopping plazas left half empty. The cultural scars of a generation who grew up expecting prosperity only to inherit precarity. The devastation wrought at the hands of greed and policy left the country on its knees, and now, some 18 years later, a generation of young artists unravel the trauma of the past and frustrations with the present through music. In Euro-Country, CMAT takes those scars and exposes them for the world to see with satire. Tesla's Jamie Oliver Eurocoins, they become a poetic shorthand for the absurdities of capitalism and collapse. How late-stage capitalism has become a lingering nightmare trapped by its own dream. It's an album in which pop is both the medium and the message. And here's why the only CMAT thread comes in. Many artists, both Irish and beyond, are writing the realities of modern life as an act of resistance. But only CMAT, an Irish millennial who lived through it and who can couch her tragedy in humour without cheapening it, could turn those experiences into a pop record that's both hilarious and heartbreaking in equal measure. When I covered the title track earlier this summer, many of you in the comments reached out and told your own stories, as if the song itself had resurrected or given voice to those perspectives long since past. That's exactly the point. CMAT reframes generational trauma through song, and suddenly you can see it, laugh at it and feel it all at once. That balance, wit and wound, is what makes not just her the right artist, but the necessary one for this cultural moment. So, how does it all come together? Let's talk about the album itself. Roger Ebert once said, "It's not what a film's about, it's how it goes about it." Musically, Euro-Country is a fascinating record. Indeed, how it goes about telling its story and redefining its protagonist in CMAT is very interesting. She talks in a couple of interviews before the release of this record about finding a genre name for her sound or a name for her music, and Euro-Country being it. The idea of the traditions of country music being transported into a European perspective and an Irish perspective. That is where her music has always thrived, and you can see it here in the socio-economic and the heartbreak of Janis Joplining, which closes the record. The beautiful line, "I'm a writer, I don't do crushes, I do problematic attention," really takes that to the edge. It's taking that origins of country music, this line wouldn't fit. It would be anachronistic at that time, but fitting it into a modern perspective. It feels like a modern take and a modern evolution. Indeed, this album is exactly that. This is seen even further in the track Coronation Street, where she envisions herself as a barmaid in the TV show with no lines, a background character in a story going on around her. That feeling of escapism, or trying to escape, or wanting to escape, but being caught in the crossfires, or caught in the lens, as it were. Being a barmaid as well is something, again, an extraction of, or an abstraction of, country music. That kind of in a bar, working in a bar, meeting people, feeling like your life is in a dead end and wanting to get out and wanting to escape. But Euro-Country as well is very much about modern perspectives and taking that tradition of country music and country pop and ideas like that and bringing it into 2025. As I said, it is something that wrestles with the traumas of the past and the frustrations of the present and turns it into a music that is undeniable. CMAT has also said that a lot of the album is about being a woman in late stage capitalism and trying to survive under that oppressive nature. The systems of patriarchy that she would have grown up with, the systems that through the media or through magazines or through television or through just idolization has kind of shown her a world, or shown her a kind of expectation of how to be in this world. This is seen in the song Take Sexy Pictures of Me with the line, "You haven't looked at me since I turned 27. That idea of being cast aside under that kind of patriarchal media presence of an expectation of what women are supposed to be. It's also in Running and Planning, the idea of getting away or trying to plan out one's life whilst not feeling connected to the world, not feeling the ability to do so, or not even feeling that there is a future to run to or to plan to. The album speaks of that universal anxiety of the future, when the future itself seems in doubt, when there's no certainties. And again, it's contrasted with what was thought of as certainty in Europe during the Celtic Tiger, and in Ireland during the Celtic Tiger, what was seen as, this is definitely going to happen, all of this can be yours. It was all, of course, a lie, and it was a lie that would unravel during the recession, but it was a lie that people bought into and people believed because it was one that was translated through the media, as we said, through the Euro, through things just even like Riverdance, the essential of kind of Celtic Tiger Irishness that was kind of a heightened version of the past. Not the kind of grittier, punkier version that we see now of traditions, something with more sheen, something with more expectation and presentation, but at the same time, something that was hidden, something that was not true or not real. All of this comes to the fore with the title track Euro-Country itself, which we did a deep dive into a couple of weeks back. And indeed, this is where all the frustration and, as I say, the wrestling with the past trauma of the recession itself comes to the fore. Naming Bertie in the song, Bertie Ahern, who was to blame for a lot of what happened during the Celtic Tiger. Not only person, the whole government was and the whole system was, but he was at the forefront of it. And the idea that in 2025, when we are looking down the barrel of another recession and people can't afford houses and people can't afford to live, people can't afford to eat, and that we are being blamed by the government and blamed by the media itself, again, that presence of the patriarchal media putting expectations on people that they cannot live up to, that those ghosts have come to the past. And in that way, that is CMAT being the only person, being the right person to take pop music, the popular medium, something that people will willingly listen to straight off the bat, and putting a political edge to it, naming out Bertie Ahern in the song and in the video, dancing in one of the many shopping plazas that were made at the time of the Celtic Tiger, itself a monument to the lies that were told at the time. In the song she says, everything I thought I could have, he cut in half. And I think that's the feeling for a lot of people from that generation. I spoke about a couple of weeks ago about how during the video, or in the comment section for the video of the deep dive of Euro-Country, a lot of people were sharing their experiences, talking to me about how they felt at that time. I even said, as somebody who grew up during that time, who was made redundant during the recession and who himself fell into depression, fell into anxiety, fell into a number of things, feeling worthless, as I was on the dole, I was on the scratch and all of that, and I kind of felt myself to be worthless because we were being told it. You're being told by the country, you're being told by society around you, especially those who could not afford to leave the country, who had to stay for economic reasons. And whilst you were drawing the dole, were told that you were a scab, you were a scrounger, all of these types of things, when they knew full well there wasn't jobs, and they're doing it now, they're doing the same thing now, where it's all this talk about, and I hate to harp on about this, but these fucking people on the fucking radio talking about what's to be done about this generation because they don't work. They don't work like we did in the 1970s. In the 1970s, I could afford... In the fucking 1970s was 50 fucking years ago, by the way. It doesn't fucking count, and it's obviously after the fucking recession and after you blew the fucking country up. That's why things aren't the fucking same. So honest to God, I think we should actually just get rid of all those fucking people on the radio and replace them with people who might have some sort of relevance to now and understand modern society better than when I was 17 in 1977, X was true. Why don't you just fuck off? Anyway, to get back to the comments, people were talking about their perspective. I never thought about the perspectives of younger people in their teens or children at the time of the recession because I was just trying to survive. But that song, Euro-Country, when she speaks about seeing all the men around her either lose their lives or take their lives or whatever, and everybody fall into despair, as a child, the trauma that must have caused to her and to a generation. I think that's why this is so interesting to me as well as an album, because we've seen For Those I Love a couple of weeks ago, translating a lot of the same frustrations in a much more trauma-based way, and with his brand new album, Carving the Stone. But there's a generation from Lancome to Fontaines to For Those I Love, Gemma Dunleavy, all these people we've covered, and now obviously CMAT, who are of that generation, that younger generation than mine, that would have been a little bit younger at the beginning of the recession and would have grown up right through it and seen family take their lives and seen friends and emigrate and all of those things, never to be seen again, go to Australia or whatever, to lose that sense of society and to lose that sense of community. That's something communicated in Gemma Dunleavy's work. That generation is now the one that has come up. That's the one making art. That's the one making music right now. Obviously, there are older generations doing so too, but this is the one that is very much at the fore. They are the ones that have lived through the trauma of watching the world around them disintegrate and not having any agency in that disintegration. They were too young to do anything about it. They were too young to emigrate. They were too young to, like me, be on the dole and have those feelings. They had to kind of process it and watch. And now, as modern life and late stage capitalism puts its fingers down on top of people, they are living through it again. The very thing that they were probably traumatized by at the beginning is now happening again. And it's pretty much been happening in a kind of a slow recession of the last 10 years. We live in a landlord state, a government that doesn't care about us, a government that doesn't want to listen to us, a media that for the most part barely challenges that government. And I'm saying that about Ireland. I can say probably the same if you're living in the UK or France or Spain or anywhere like that, because we got a lot of comments about that as well too. That these machinations of late stage capitalism, that trappings, that nightmare that we live in, that was all set up by the dream that was capitalism, that we are being forced to continue it because of sunk cost fallacy. Because for the greedy, for the people who survive the recession with money, it's not a problem because they know they can do it again. Look at the recent laws around landlords and the recent laws about rent and not think that that is them feathering their nest for what's to come. This techno-feudalism, us as the poor, them at the top, is something that we should all be concerned about. And it comes out in art. And I've said it a couple of times on the show. Art can be a mirror. It can be a reflection, especially popular music. Especially that's why Euro-Country fits into that, because it is pop music. The music that we find popular, the music that we engage with, the music that is top of the charts says something about us. It could say escapism. It could say a contrast to the realities of now. It could be all of those things. But it does say something about us. I think that's why CMAT is the perfect artist for this. That sense of humour, that sense of satire plays into modern society as well. That kind of memeability of it. It feels like she is able to satire the world around her whilst also reminding us of all of the real reality that's happening, everything that's happening to people around, and the crushing reality of late stage capitalism put through the filter of pop music and through the filter of country music. Those two things merging. Country music with its deep history of socio-economic background and themes and imagery is also married with the pop music that CMAT creates. It's absolutely perfect. And her first two albums, as I say, were more introspective and personal, whilst also alluding to the world that created them. This one faces all of that head on. And that's why I think this is her best album to date. In a career where her albums for me have gone like this, the three albums have always improved on the last. I think CMAT has really put herself at the fore in popular music as one of the artists who speaks for a generation. And you really feel that, and I really felt that from the comments in the last couple of videos I watched and just the engagement with her music. You only have to go see her live to see how much people love her and love her music and love what she has to say. So for those people as well, for a younger generation that is happening now, and for them to have somebody speak that and through music and through art is incredibly important. Not as important as the government doing things. You know, doing things, and I say that about all of them, doing things rather than just putting things up on TikTok and look how I owned the other guy. Fucking. Anyway, actually doing stuff. Artists can shine a light on it. And in the case of Bertie Ahern, hopefully deter people from bringing him back from the cold. Indeed, the generation that could only watch on as the world around them fell into the depths of depression and recession are now being tasked with bringing that trauma to light through dance, music, art and voice. They speak not only for their generation, but mine, yours and the future generations to come. It's a very deep burden and torch to carry. But indeed, isn't that what all great art is? So where does this leave us? With Euro-Country, CMAT has given us a document, a record of the here and now. The personal and the political collide in our songs, the way they collide in our daily lives. Think about it. We live in a time where we can be scrolling past a meme 1 second and a headline about recession the next, where grief is filtered through comedy and comedy through grief. That's the rhythm of our culture right now, surreal, contradictory, exhausting. And CMAT embodies it, turning it into music you can sing along to in one moment and cry to the next. The thing is, anyone can write a breakup song, and anyone can satire politics. But the reason Euro-Country feels essential is because only CMAT could fuse those words without losing heart in either. Her humour never undercuts her sincerity, and her sincerity never dulls her wit. That's a razor-thin balance, and she walks that razor's edge like a tightrope. Pop music, at its best, is supposed to tell us who we are in a given moment, for good and for bad. Pop can be both art and entertainment. It can hold a mirror up to the absurdity of being alive and provide us with some much needed escapism in the same verse. That's what Euro-Country does. It laughs, it cries, and it does both at the same time. So yes, Euro-Country is an album of its time. Proof that sometimes the right artist arrives at the right moment, and when they do, their songs can give us a sense of shared feeling and meaning to our experiences. Indeed, CMAT made the only record that could make sense of right now, while still making us dance. And so it goes, and there it went. CMAT's Euro-Country truly captures the imagination and captures the moment. Socio-politically sharp, personally heartwarming and culturally relevant. But what about you? Have you been listening to Euro-Country? What is your take on it? Do you think CMAT is the right artist at the right time? Is she the wrong artist at the right time? Do you think this is her best album to date? How do you think it stacks up to her previous work? Are you listening to it on repeat? What is a song that stood out to you? Maybe it's a song I didn't even mention in this week's show. Let me know in the comments below.
A lot of the songs are centered around dealing with like women under capitalism, right? And I thought like the way of doing it best was just like focusing on my childhood and like my time growing up in Ireland, which when I was 12 years old suffered like a really bad economic crash that like completely totaled the whole country.